Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stone by Stone. I am still your host, Andrew Swanson, and I am very, very pleased to be joined today by a new friend of the club who we've begun speaking with and working with somewhat recently. But please, very welcome to introduce Joel Nash. Joel, thank you so much for being here, representing the USL, USL League 2, and USLW League, which we're extremely proud to be a part of this year. Thank you so much for being with us today, man.
Andrew, it's a pleasure. Obviously, a little bit warmer down here in Tampa, Florida, but couldn't be more thrilled to be able to join you guys today and have a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And, I really, like I said earlier, I really appreciate the sympathy you're showing with your wardrobe today. It is actually a balmy near 30 something degrees. So we're up in double digits again, which is actually a huge deal here. So a lot of the snow cover has melted in the last couple days, which is a very, very unique moment in Chicago emotionally. But yeah, we'll get right down into the thick of things. Why don't you, for our listeners, introduce yourself and your role with USL and a little bit more about what you're working on over there.
Absolutely, and it's a humble pleasure anytime I get to bring it up. In that I'm actually coming up on 11 years with USL.
Wow.
Like you mentioned, have the humble privilege of overseeing League 2, W League, and ultimately some of our youth and player development platforms and USL Academy and USL Youth. So I live in the non-professional world of USL, and I think all of us, with the name of the podcast, Stone by Stone, is a perfect example of we're all builders, hopefully by trade, and we want to grow this sport, and plenty of excitement at all levels of this game. Obviously, we've got a small soccer tournament coming to our shores this summer.
I heard
that. But overseeing, for sure. But overseeing these leagues, sometimes we'll call them properties, but I think leagues is better.
Mm-hmm.
It is trying to make sure each league is excelling, and I'm so thrilled to be able to. We are thrilled to have you all join at the League 2 and W League level. So really, day to day, it's managing our team internally, but most importantly, making sure the relationships with clubs, club owners, club leadership of all shapes and sizes and locations, really just working with them, getting to know them as close as we can, and how we can all support them and work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we sort of first started talking, I think, within the last couple of years, and my interest from the club level has always been, like you said, and sort of just understanding the landscape better over the years, right? We've been doing this since 2017 and we've grown a lot, but something that we've always been really, really impressed by is the fact that USL League 2 and USLW League, sort of speaking to that pre-professional adult but not professional realm, is one that really does need so much attention in the US. And I often describe the difference between soccer here and soccer in other countries where there is a more, thorough, in-depth, connective pyramid. The rungs on the ladder are a lot closer to each other. So here we have to work a lot harder to get from one rung to the next because the distance between them is so great. And I think something that's really great about what the pre-professional world in USL is doing right now is sort of moving these rungs closer to the other ones, and I think that's something that's so important. I'd love to ask you more about how you started with USL and how your sort of introduction to the game. I'd love to go as far back as you want, just to learn a little bit more about you. Like where'd you grow up? How'd you get introduced to the game in general?
Yeah, try and be humble enough to where I don't always enjoy this, but I think it's one that I've grown to appreciate because we all have these stories, right? And not to be on a soapbox, but I'm the youngest of three boys. I was actually born in Dothan, Alabama. So there is a Dothan United quick shout out on that aspect in terms of it's that passion that I know of course, myself has with where this sport can be built in all different shapes and sizes of cities and communities or micro cities and communities. But I first started playing soccer. I was the first one in my family, again, Southern Alabama in the 90s. There's always been a soccer kind of culture, but obviously it's not known necessarily for a soccer culture, but the ill-shaped football shape sport is reigning supreme. And I was very kind of blessed to love this game and play it extensively as a player. And I had opportunities to move away from home actually at 15 to go play in a full-time academy in Cleveland, Ohio. And then from there, was able to represent the under-17 national team in U.S. Soccer's residency program at IMG Academy. So much closer to Tampa than I ever thought I'd end up arriving, and just some incredible youth experiences. I think to bring it back even to a bit of what we're talking about today, that's just naturally built in me. I had to pursue a different journey as a player than maybe one would hope. While I loved those experiences moving away from home, I mean, soccer was my passion. So I loved meeting new people and going to different communities. Without knowing it, I think I was realizing or experiencing a stepping stone or a pathway that I think we'd all enjoy players having a little bit more of a, I'm born in, just to know where I grew up. I'm born or grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and I want to represent Birmingham Legion of the championship all the way through and represent that club. At that time, that wasn't ultimately very possible at my end. So living that experience while enjoying it definitely gave me a sweet taste of opportunities that we all have at a league and organization level, but at the club level in partnership to make it to where young boys and girls have those dreams and can realize them without ever leaving home, so to speak. And then, I played soccer in college at University of Evansville, Indiana. So not too far.
No, not at all.
Didn't quite experience the Chicago winters, but it was enough of a wake-up call from growing up in a little bit warmer climates. And then from there, sought to play professionally a little bit. Obviously had plenty of experiences at that level, but ultimately my college coach opened the door for me here at USL, again, 10, 11 years ago, and have been here ever since, and certainly couldn't be more grateful to have gone through all of that.
Yeah. I mean, so I love to hear that because, I'm obviously running a community club in a big city like Chicago. I think there is a similar vibe to a small town and a neighborhood in a big city in some ways, and that they sort of, it's not too different in amount of people. You're just also surrounded in tons of other neighborhoods full of that same amount of people. But there is something so cool that you mentioned about, a kid growing up in or around Birmingham and like having that club there as the target for them throughout their whole career, right? Where they can get into that academy and they can stay there through their professional career. And that to me is such an important function that USL does serve, right? Is that like there are so many markets that are definitely big enough to support a pro team and definitely big enough to support a pretty big pro team. But because of the way the structure has worked in the past, it just hasn't been, able for a kid to see that and say, that's going to be me one day, right? But now that's, what USL has done over the course of the last 10 or 15 years is incredible in that regard. So you when were you at University of Evansville?
2010 to 2014.
Okay.
So Mike Jacobs ultimately was my coach. He's with Nashville SC and done a great job, and always humbled to see people who you get to know excel. But 2010 to 2014.
Got it. So awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating to see where the game takes people, right? And I think that that's one of the things I've been so kind of humbled by myself getting into the game a little later in life, is kind of learning how much work and how many different kinds of work go into pro sports in general, but soccer specifically, which I think is it's unique to most sports, right? In that there are, cultural implications and there are sort of like global historical implications to the game that other sports here don't really have. So I'm always very fascinated by that. What was your first role at the USL when you first started 11 years ago?
Yeah, so obviously it's since rebranded to USL Youth, but Super Y League, which has a huge presence with a lot of great historical clubs and newer clubs in the Chicagoland region. But I ultimately first joined to take over, kind of be the director of that league, obviously with team members and staff to support. But that was the first opportunity. And ultimately coming in, was able to recognize, again, USL was incredible for me at the time, but also was a lot smaller as an organization. And so I look back on that, and again, there's similar themes to you looking at Edgewater Castle in 2017 to what you are now with the support system and the staff and the vision and being able to carry that out. It's similar at an organization or league level, where I was able to grow that role, maintain that role, but continue to grow. And pretty quickly, I led the expansion process for League Two. At the time, it was PO. So I took that on as well. And I count that as such a key milestone, where when you look to grow a league, as in find clubs, whether they're completely brand new or perhaps in an existing youth organization or youth club, you really, at least certainly I didn't know really anything other than just wanting to learn about those clubs and thus learn what clubs look for in a league. And while rubber can't always match up, once it hits the road, but you certainly learn how and what clubs are looking for, what they're trying to achieve. So I feel really grateful to have been able to ultimately meet people exactly like yourself over a decade now, where you find out throughout kind of the undertones of the conversation of where soccer is growing in this country, not just, where it's continued to do great on the youth side or on the professional front. But again, I firmly believe in this middle tier, if we're kind of looking at it in that space of, again, small size communities, large cities who have, their pockets. Ballard FC is another great example. That's really kind of built itself within that hyper local community. And there are similarities, but then there are also differences. It's really trying to wrestle with the size of our country being both an incredible asset or opportunity, while also it's a challenge, and we all are facing that. So just back on my role, kind of moved into that from a League Two standpoint, and then I'm sure we can keep going. But I had the opportunity to launch the W League again. Of course, we had an iteration of it, and felt it was best to really, so to speak, regroup and make sure we went about our entire women's vertical with a renewed passion and really the right timing, so to speak. So had the humble opportunity of building the W League, and obviously now we get to talk about that through the lens of you all today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. I mean, I think that the last 10 years in the game, and especially in the lower leagues, I talked to a lot of our guests about kind of that span of time, right? Essentially, like the way I think of it, it's kind of like the year or two prior to the US not making that World Cup on the men's side. And that really spurned a lot of people to want to get more involved in the grassroots, and like, our whole system's broken and everything needs to be, burned down and fixed. And, whether or not that is just pure hyperbole, I think that there was sort of an instance in which a lot more people wanted to get directly involved. And it felt like in that period of time, a lot of clubs just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And it does feel like, that this period of time has seen, not just in the USL, but I think that's a great example of how things feel like they're starting to grow or coalesce a little more, or maybe shift more towards more of a system that isn't so like hard to look at and make sense of. So I really do applaud the work that you've done to kind of bring a lot of these things together over that period of time. When you talk about the size of the country and the level that we're talking about, right, which is that sort of underneath third tier pro to however far below that exists for us, which is a complex thing in general. What are some of the really unique challenges in that for you? In that, obviously distance between cities is a thing. I think you can fit like how many Englands between here and Minnesota. So yeah, just talk me through a little bit about how you look at those challenges and opportunities, and what how best y'all make sense and use of them.
Yeah, what an incredible topic. And I want to be fruitful, but also fruitful of everyone's time, because I could probably a couple hours and not even blink. I think one way that I'd start it is that balance of and I'd say there's a duty or a responsibility on both the league and a club in the sense of balancing structure and plans and quote unquote best practices, but leaving room for the unique. I'll leave it as uniqueness at a club level, and the lessons or natural growth curve that we at a league level would go through in terms of what do we need and what do we really invest in or really look for, but also know that we might need to kind of revert back or evolve and learn. And I know that's all very abstract. I think the way I dive a little bit further, yes, with a structure, it was a clear vision we had kind of as a company, obviously something that I focused on when I first really took over kind of both the growth and then the league itself at the time was League Two. And we implemented a lot of these structural best practices at W League is, of course, reducing travel. And again, you have to be very cognizant, and we by no means are experts, quote unquote, here at the league office, but spending time talking to teams, talking to existing teams about what they're looking for in other clubs or in other communities that are nearby. Reducing travel is one of the best ways that an organization can directly support the financial well-being of a club, right? Reducing that travel budget while also looking and celebrating where rivalries can be created, but yet also not oversaturating, right? Because then you do, and what it, oversaturation in 2017 might have seemed a lot different than what we are now as well. Because also the growth and the interest of soccer, the interest of people having a club in the greater Edgewater communities versus another area of Chicagoland. At the time, 10 years ago, that would have been a lot harder for people to really feel like that was possible. So I think the balance of some of these very clear, I would just say, sustainability focused aspects also then opened up the opportunity to, and really I look at us in many ways as, I'll say, a facilitator, where if there's a club that, whether that be how they branded their team and connected in with the fan base, or they knew their community from a soccer standpoint was extremely, we need and want to be family friendly, focusing on that, where then there are other clubs that absolutely want to have a bit of an edge, right? And, with Portland Cherry Bombs and Portland Bangers and the organization there, and just Portland as a community enjoys, while that's all family friendly as well, they enjoy just being edgy. And that's something that they can and should celebrate. Whereas maybe a club in another community, not to say that they can't, but they have a different lens. So making sure that we're not being, I don't want to use the word plastic, right? But yeah, we want to create some structure and ability to continue to, for lack of a better term, survive, because then through that, clubs begin to pick up other pieces, what other clubs are doing, or people are inspired to start a brand new club from scratch because they looked at other clubs, and making sure that there's enough of that uniqueness that's appealing to people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you put that. I think that, it seems like the structure that you're able to bring is one that is, systemic and has to be with a country this size and regions this big, right? And that's incredible. But I think the way you're talking about it as though there is an authenticity to each place and each people from that place that needs to be kind of protected too, in order to keep things from feeling inauthentic. Is that sort of what you're getting at? Yeah, that
absolutely. And there's no perfect, that's a summation. And then from that becomes, in a great way, very convoluted. And I think that's what makes a beautiful game, beautiful madness, and just pure beauty at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a team you follow overseas, out of curiosity, to change gears a little bit?
No, I love it. This has been great. I love this. My first ever soccer coach was born and bred Manchester, England.
Okay.
And back when there wasn't the beautiful plethora of ways to watch and consume football, it was either, I think, Fox Sports World or Fox Soccer Channel. The only soccer I could watch was at his house on a Saturday morning, Central Time. So you're talking 6-ish. I was drinking PG Tips English tea with milk in it. And ultimately, and he, incredible mentor and just friend ultimately. It was Manchester United or nobody.
Yeah. You didn't have a choice if you were over at his house.
He was my soccer father.
Yeah.
I'm and people know a bit here at headquarters. I'm a bit mad about Manchester United.
Okay.
So
Got it.
love them. But honestly, I also I do love all the different aspects, and at times I followed players a bit more when I was more of a player and want to emulate them and things like that. But yeah, Manchester United would be my team.
That's good. I mean, there was some definite good years for you. It's been a little less perfect lately, but it does seem like things are on the up and up. No haircut for that guy yet.
I know. What's great is honestly feeling as a fan of Manchester United, certainly in the last decade, in a good way, you can relate to what we do have a wonderful challenge here in the States, which is that balance too of setting people up for success, but letting them be organic so that fans aren't there other than I'm truly there to support this community. And I hope we keep delivering something out of another community's representative team, like that rival.
Yeah.
And that support needs to come literally in 30-degree weather, hopefully, or in beautiful 70-degree summer weather, or whether we're winning or losing. And I think that's a wonderful challenge and opportunity we have within this space specifically of building this ecosystem of fans that, of course, will want to support our national team or the national team they support and perhaps call home, but also the professional clubs, but truly latching on to I want there to be young kids in 10 years saying my uncle played for Edgewater Castle.
Yeah.
And that's a cool family, whether it's a photo or whatever we're digesting media at that time, right? That there's cool stories. And I think that's where soccer in this country, unlike any other sport, has a capability of truly saturating every area of our size.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another thing and it's difficult to do this in the US because it's so sort of standardized, mostly in some ways by the English, of the fact that they all, there is that relationship of them doing it right and having it set right, and ours isn't quite right yet, and they wouldn't it be great if we could have it like theirs? Do you ever sort of think about it in that context of sort of looking at our pyramid or our system or what you're building with USL and sort of look at them against each other and reference where the lines are and how far, what does that look like for you in terms of, and looking at what we have and what we're building and what, is there a target like that in your mind or is it just sort of a comparative?
I think it's like anything, there is a level of comparing, not in a comparison manner, but comparing for any random bright spark of an idea, right? In the end, we can be so in the weeds and we are nothing but excited about the 26th season. It's a World Cup year, all of this. But ultimately I need to think of what does 27 look like? And then there's the fun, and I'm looking out a window in my office, what does 2035 look like?
Yeah.
And so with that, if the English system has dozen plus general tiers, and they're, again, the size that they are, imagine when, not if, soccer truly catches, as it already is, but continues its momentum, how many tiers we could have. Now, again, I believe it's less going to be about tiers, but ultimately an attempt at regionalization and continuing to make it that much more accessible. And while they're buzzwords, they're actual words we're looking to achieve, not just from a fan standpoint, but of course from a player movement as well, which is going to continue to be, in our own American way, a challenge, but a great opportunity, and really encouraged by what the Federation continues to be working on as well. They've been great and are continuing to be active partners, I think, for many people at the league, organization, association level of our country. So maybe got off track a little bit, but I do think, it's fun to envision these tiers because it does create an opportunity for young players to dream about it, fans to picture. And I've loved what you all have done where, you are taking this as an opportunity to see the club continue to progress upward, even if, and with total respect to all other leagues, truly, and I mean that, there is a level of step up that we hope to try and create as USL in terms of our standards and ability and competition on and off the field. So it's fun to think and dream about it, even if we've got enough on our plate right here in front of us.
Yeah, of course. The next year is going to be enough. But I think that way too, where I'll often think of the sort of like best case scenario, 20-year distant target, and then like work your way backwards and see if it makes any sense. But yeah, this has been amazing. I think there's a lot of other questions I'd love to ask you, including going into a season in a World Cup year. Just the sort of experience of the rise and growth of the clubs and leagues the last couple of seasons. And then I'd also like to get into a little more about kind of in more of this envisioning the future type stuff. We are going to go to a break very briefly. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes. But yeah, thank you so much for the first half. It's been awesome, man.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Folks, we will be right back with Stone by Stone after these messages. Thank you so much, and we will see you in a second.
Eight years ago, we were just an idea, a distant dream for togetherness, joy, and triumph. We did not inherit a dynasty. We did not arrive with airdropped riches and fanfare. We began with a foundation of belief and a shared commitment to build something. Something authentic, something necessary. We're building this club the only way we know how. Stone by stone, brick by brick, goal after goal after goal. Now the foundation is set. The structure's sound. We can hear the music of the side streets and the rhythm of Lake Michigan as we give our community more Chicago to root for. Which is why we're proud to announce, for the 2026 season, Edgewater Castle Football Club officially enters the national stage, USL League 2 and USLW League. We built together. Now we climb together. Onward and upward, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stone by Stone. I am indeed still Andrew Swanson, and I am very fortunately still joined here by Joel Nash of USL. Joel, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. So for the second half here, we're going to dive into a little bit more of the specifics of USL2, W League, some of the youth stuff. So paint a picture for me. How many teams, let's start here. How many clubs do you have involved in USL2 this year?
158.
Okay. And how many are in USL League W this year?
96.
Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of teams. So how does the league, from a sort of centralized perspective, manage this many regions, right? When you think about, even for example, we were talking about England, like the EFL or any of those, right? Those do start to get broken down into regions, right?
Yep.
But those regions are still in England, which is not as big. So how do you all manage this with so many time zones and climates and all this stuff? Like, talk me through that.
Yeah. Well, and that's where obviously the collaboration and work by the clubs is immense, right? Truly. I mean, that's what we're here for. But the team that we have across operations and competition, huge shout out to the team I get to work with every day, because it's incredible. A lot of young, hungry, wanting to do their part in changing the sport. And I think if we don't have that motivation, we'll get swallowed up, given the size and scale, to your point. We've got 20 really for each league. You've got your your national membership, but then we have our 4 conferences, and then a division breaks down into smaller subsections where that's where teams ultimately play their regular season matches. So you all are in the Central Conference, and we have, depending on each league, anywhere between 4 to 5 divisions that make up the Central Conference. And the reason I bring that up is we talked about it a bit earlier. That's how we continue to reduce travel. Right. When it just from a mental memory, we had 67 teams in League Two in 2015. And so to see the growth both is encouraging, but it also has allowed us to continue to, again, do one of those key aspects we can try and do at a league level is reduce that travel. And again, truly also create some rivalries. So and how all that plays as well is, in the end, we play this sport. Clubs should be a part of this sport to try and win. And so how we kind of break all that down, for League Two, we'll have 32 teams out of the 158. 38 teams qualify for playoffs. Have a first round that includes our Eastern Conference, which is obviously eastern part of the U.S. And they have so many teams given the size and density of those communities. But ultimately, we'll crown a champion after 3 different weeks worth of playoffs, where we have this what we call pod weekend, where you'll play 4 teams will go into one location, the host location, which also allows that host club and community to celebrate other clubs from other communities coming to town. But they'll play 2 rounds in order to reduce travel and ultimately also focus on helping players not travel so much in between matches. So League Two obviously will finish up in early August with the season kickoff, as we just got to celebrate. Schedule releases today, with the League Two season kicking off that first couple days, first week of May. And then on the W League side with 96 teams, and this will be year 5 for the W League, which is a key milestone when you think about going from technically 0, but 44 clubs in the first year and continuing to build the league, and obviously wanting to make sure we're doing right by just women's soccer in general, but also supporting the growth of our Super League and seeing the talent through the W League. Obviously being good partners, so to speak, with the collegiate game as well. I'll give you a bunch here, but with W League, we'll have 16 teams make playoffs. And we have 16 divisions across the W League. So it's going to be a tightly, strongly contested season with the W League, where division winners will qualify. So a lot to root for, a lot to cheer on for fans out there, but ultimately the players are going to have to get it done on the field. So there's a big ecosystem for sure.
Absolutely, man. I just got chills. I wish everyone the best, but I want those trophies so bad. I just want them so bad. Great. Well, thank you for that breakdown. That's extremely helpful, because I think it's important for people to recognize, and there's so much learning being done in the US right now about the game itself. And I think, again, the last 10 to 15 years has increased just the general populace's knowledge of the game, culturally speaking, and, regarding knowing any other leagues and the names of them, or the names of the teams in other leagues. Like the percentage of people that have some sense of what the game is now is a much higher percentage. And seeing that there are now these leagues in which these communities can take the game more seriously and can treat the game more seriously in a format like you're talking about, not only gives the players and the coaches in these areas that want that more intense level of experience in the adult game, and obviously the local college coaches who love to see that their players are sticking around in the summer and things like that. But it is, again, just such a great opportunity for people from anywhere to have a connection to the game that means more to them than just anything does, right? Like than watching Man United play, as much as I know that means to you at this point. I think that's just such an important, special thing. You did also bring up the collegiate game, which is another fascinating wrinkle in the United States soccer tapestry. And, it seems to me, at least, like USL2 and USLW League have both been a huge asset to colleges and college coaches and college players. I'm curious about one thing that I think a lot of people have noticed, especially lately in the college game, that just to get your perspective on it, there's this thing that I've been noticing where people are referencing an increased number of internationals, players from other countries coming to play college soccer in the US instead of going into the pro game overseas. How have you seen that impact either, you know, the team cultures around the country in these college towns, or have you seen it impact the level of play in these leagues? Like how is the college game and the way it's changing impacted these leagues?
It's a great question, and kind of one I think that could branch off. And, you know, are we talking pure player development? And by all means want to be very kind of clear, like we want to be as strong of an asset to developing the future national team players for the US. Mm-hmm. Like we want to win a World Cup on the men's side, want to win plenty more on the women's side. And so it, you know, wanting to develop and give opportunities to young American players should be what we want to strive for, not in elimination of opportunities for anybody playing or representing another country, for sure. To your point, the talent has continued to grow. And while I wouldn't probably have any metrics or position on saying has that increased or has a talent increased, because the leagues and the style of clubs we have in League Two and W League have improved their environment. So just the continued cream of the crop want to be there, or has the, I think, growing influx of international talent coming into the college game also been a factor. I think it's probably a mixture of everything. Personally, I do love how many cultures and communities can be celebrated by the international talent. Certainly, you know, when you think about Chicago, and you'd be the one to educate me on just the incredible kind of tapestry of cultures and communities that even your fan base might portray, and having a player represent their home country, being an international out of college, is a huge opportunity for you to give, you know, your fans a different outlook. So I think there's tons of ways to celebrate it, as well as, again, we still want to, and we have roster rules at the League Two and W League level where, of course, we allow internationals on the team, and we allow even, I think, upwards of 10 on a game day roster, while of course we want there to be a good representation of American domestic talent, so that, again, we are also doing our part to fuel the youth national teams, and even, of course, the full national team, that, again, certainly with the history of League Two, we've got plenty of full national team alumni out here between the sticks and scoring goals that applied their trade in League Two at one point, and we're going to obviously continue to see that at the W League level as well. Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, I think that's one of the things that gets me sort of most excited about the game, is that sort of player development storyline. And I think that's another thing that, you know, people who even follow soccer overseas more than they do here, that live here, would probably be surprised to hear those stories, right? Where there is actually players on the national team that were playing in USL 2 or the PDL at the time who were like just in your town playing every weekend, right? And like those kinds of things are what I think drive people to feel like the game is more a part of their own lives and their own experience. So I'll eat up any story like that you have. However,
go ahead, please.
Well, no, please, you continue.
Well, I think where I love it is, as we envision clubs at this level, truly, and it doesn't have to happen, and it's part of our long-term journey together with clubs, but as fan bases grow and as these players truly feel like they are a professional player representing Edgewater Castle, even though they need to still be amateurs and all the other aspects, if they feel like pros, this might be the highest level they're ever at. And I do think of the Matt Turner journey, where by no means are we sitting here saying League Two and W League are the places where all these players finally developed and hit their peak. But his story is pretty unique, where it was his short time in PDL that certainly played a part in him realizing, you know what, I can do this. I should keep going on. And ultimately, of course, his journey has turned out to be great.
Yeah.
It's those small ones that we know and are excited to watch multiply over the years, because that is also part of the unique opportunity of keeping dreams alive and seeing people achieve them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many examples of how, even in more dense leagues around the world, those stories exist, like the Jamie Vardys and those people who were sort of just like playing non-league, essentially amateur soccer into their 20s, and then ended up playing in the first or second division for a full, healthy career. And that does sort of go to show that you sort of need as many rungs on the ladder as you can, and you need them to be as close to each other as you can, because that's how a player like that gets to actually get a chance and take advantage of it. Yeah, I love that stuff. Let's shift slightly into the coming. Speaking of folks from other countries arriving in the U.S., we do have the World Cup in 2026 being hosted here in the United States and in Mexico and in Canada. What's the vibe like at USL for this coming year? I know that there's obviously like a ton happening. We're obviously playing our leagues during the tournament, which I'm very, very excited about, actually. But what's the vibe over there at the head office?
Other than people, trying to weasel however they can into getting tickets wherever they
can,
and random celebrations off in the corner when somebody, finally got the lottery and got the game they wanted.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, I think an honest opinion is we're really ready to try and drink as much as we can from the fire hose that is going to be the world's game on our, in our backyard, literally and figuratively. I do think, even you had such a great question earlier about kind of how we as a league or organization look at really kind of building the sport through the clubs. And I talk about some structure, but enough room for flexibility. I think with the World Cup, even the clubs that are in the host cities, each host city is going to just look and feel a bit different. And it's not our way of saying we know we certainly don't have all the answers. But it's one that I think at the very core, there was never in doubt that we were going to play our seasons during the. I know, especially at the League 2 and W pre-pro level, where I think if anything, with the amount of fans coming from other countries who very deeply respect and enjoy lower division football, so to speak. We even saw and heard that with a bit of feedback from the Club World Cup last summer, which obviously is a great tournament, but nowhere near the World Cup. And so for us, we really view it as an opportunity that should do nothing but encourage our clubs to believe in, whether they're getting now thousands and thousands of fans at their games, or they're just really getting started and wanting to think about how do I build a culture. Our hope is just by, quite frankly, operating and, of course, at the league level, making sure we have a successful, smooth operated season where we can, but just watching our clubs also celebrate the stories that they don't even know they're going to have yet, whether that be perhaps an entire country's, fan group coming to watch a game because they found that a player was also from that country, or, quite frankly, clubs getting better, not respect they needed to earn it already, but better connections to their local visitor bureau or entities or county entities that, now are going to realize, wow, this is the game. This is the sport. And hey, this club can be our ongoing outlet for the beautiful game as they go, which for us is important, that they can grow their business in terms of the stakeholders that they're connected with. So, there's nothing but excitement, both as fans, but also as we've all talked for so long since we knew we'd be hosting the World Cup in this country, and talk about how do we build a framework that can do its best to capture the momentum of this summer and then truly continue to see that flourish onward. And that takes constant checks and balances, but also a level of let's just continue to kind of pour gasoline on the fire and really see it grow. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that the momentum is so important in the game of soccer in the U.S., I think, because it does feel as though these big seminal moments sort of do create echoes, right? Like it feels like with the 30th anniversary of MLS, I think, or something like that was recently. It feels like that is still kind of an echo from the 94 World Cup, right? Where like that has now just finished having its impact, you know?
100.
So with that said, like, you know, the world that I guess the soccer ecosystem that the World Cup will find here in the U.S. compared to 1994 is a very different one, right? It's much thanks to y'all, a much more thorough and in-depth collection of leagues and things like that.
Yeah.
So what do you think, what impact do you think will have, what impact do you expect the World Cup this coming summer to have on this level of the game? Right. We sort of, people talk all the time about what it's going to do to the pro levels and how the pro rel coming to USL and all that stuff. But what do you think it's going to do to this sort of, you know, more community based level of the game in W and N2?
You know, and it's a bullish statement, but because ultimately a vast majority of fans who are going to arrive on these shores will not, you know, stay after the summer. One thing that I think there is such a draw to going back to local, from, you know, breweries and microbreweries and restaurants and the food scene and the kind of the entertainment scene being really something to enjoy very locally. And that's where I think the connection in with the beautiful, you know, with football, with soccer, is there. So I genuinely feel there is such a bullish approach or perspective on fans naturally feeling something different about being hyper local. And what I guess the way I would try and not say that so abstractly would be, they're looking for an outlet to celebrate sport. And certainly, hopefully they are clearly interested in soccer, both coming into the World Cup because they might be completely brand new fans, or they were, you know, general soccer fans going into the World Cup. And now they're like, man, I've got an itch that I need to just really enjoy, want to pursue. And clubs at I'll just call it pre-professional level, at this lower division level, are just an opportunity for also fans. And honestly, any fan who hears this, it's an opportunity for fans to be far more involved with a club than they might know they can, or certainly could ever be with maybe a more major league level club. And I don't mean ill towards that, but there's just raw, tribal, kind of hands-on, you know, autographs after a game, or if you think you have broadcast skills, the potential of volunteering on that or working on that, or you name it. So to get right back to it, I really believe, and I say this about League Two and W League, around kind of being the nervous system of soccer in this country. And I don't think anyone else has said it, and maybe it doesn't actually make sense to others, but it does to me, in the sense of really trying to build this infrastructure that not only for each individual club, as more and more people are just looking for an outlet for soccer to celebrate and maybe even play, you know, whether clubs have adult teams or other teams that they want to use, just these outlets are there. And clubs that do it right, that do have a community-centered focus and are doing things exactly what you all are doing, what I'm on right now, are ways that then fans will get attracted to a club. And then I think once they're there, I truly believe it's not just going to be a quick blip of a support, but it's going to be something that then we're going to actually start to build lifelong fans coming out of the World Cup at this level for clubs.
Yeah. Oh, God. I hope so, man. That sounds amazing. Let's do it. So I've got 3 more rapid fire questions, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Golden Boot for the World Cup this summer, Golden Glove for the World Cup this summer in goal, and who's going to be in the final?
I'm going to be worried that who I say in the final might mathematically not be possible to be in the final.
They don't have to connect to each other, just sort of right off the cuff, you know?
Who's going to be, or who do I want to be? Sorry, I'm asking. These should have been rapid fire.
I would say who's going to be.
Okay. Spain, Germany. I just believe they're playing at. They know how to play tournaments, and they're playing incredible football. I'd love to be like Brazil in the US.
Right.
Golden Glove. Oh man, Andrew, I haven't thought outside of that. This is great. I'll go Kylian Mbappe for Golden Boot.
Yep. Safe bet.
And who would be Spain's goalie?
That's a great question. I actually don't know.
We'll go with Manuel Neuer if he's still calling shots.
Yeah, just throw Neuer out there. He's always going to be up in the mix, you know.
Oliver Kahn.
Oliver Kahn. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to do incredibly well. With a face like that in goal, who would even try to score? Well, dude,
I butchered those last 3 questions, but I appreciate
no, dude, that was incredible. Honestly, the human moments are why we're here. That's Joel. That's all the time we have. I'm really, really grateful to you for taking the time out of your day to do this and talk to us about the league and the game in the U.S. and all of these things. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk to you as per. So thanks for being here, man. And we're really hoping you'll come back sometime.
I'm so grateful. I couldn't, ask for a better opportunity with you guys to kind of close out the day and talk about something clearly I'm pretty passionate about, and would welcome any other time we can get on and kind of further the dialogue. And like you said, it's a unique opportunity to both inspire people, but also educate them, and what a better year to be able to do it. So thanks for having me on.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joel. And folks, thank you so much for being here. This has been Stone by Stone. I have been Andrew Swanson. This has been Joel Nash. And we're very grateful to you for watching. So thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.